In 1968, there were 303 million high school-aged children on planet Earth. About 18 million of them lived in America, 270,000 in Washington State, about 100,000 in the Seattle area, and just 300 went to one specific school just outside the city. One of those 300 children was 13 years old. His name was Bill Gates. And without that school, there would have been no Microsoft. The school was called Lakeside. Morgan Housel writes about it in Chapter 2 of The Psychology of Money, a chapter titled Luck and Risk. And the way Lakeside got its computer is one of the most unlikely chains of events in business history. A man named Bill Dougal was a World War II Navy pilot turned high school math and science teacher. He believed students needed real-world experience, not just textbook learning. So in 1968, Dougal petitioned the Lakeside Mothers Club to use the proceeds of their annual rummage sale, about $3,000, to lease a teletype Model 30 computer hooked up to a General Electric mainframe through a time-sharing arrangement. Housel calls this remarkable for a reason. Time-sharing, the ability to access a remote computer in real time, had only just been invented. Most major universities did not have access to anything as advanced as what a 13-year-old at Lakeside School now had. And the school did not even fold it into the regular curriculum. It was an independent study program. Bill Gates and his friend Paul Allen could play with this machine, after school, late into the night, on weekends, for as long as they wanted. They quickly became computing experts. Years later, in 2005, Bill Gates returned to Lakeside to deliver a graduation speech. And he said in his own words, "If there had been no Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft." Now consider Housel's math. There were 303 million high school-age kids in the world that year, about 18 million in the US, about 270,000 in Washington State, about 100,000 in the Seattle area, and about 300 at Lakeside. Of those 300, only Gates and a handful of others had the combination of cash, foresight, and curiosity to actually use the computer. Out of 303 million children on Earth, Bill Gates was one of approximately 300. This is what Housel calls 1 in a million luck. And Bill Gates is, by his own admission, the beneficiary of it. Housel uses the Bill Gates story to make one of the most uncomfortable arguments in personal finance. Every outcome in life is shaped by forces other than individual effort. Lots of writers have praised Gates for his work ethic, his brilliance, his vision. All of those are real. Housel does not dispute any of them. The point is that even after you account for them, Bill Gates is also the beneficiary of pure cosmic luck. Born to the right family, in the right city, attending the right school, in the exact right year, with the exact right teacher who happened to petition the exact right parent group for the exact right amount of money to lease the exact right computer. Change any one of those variables, and there is no Microsoft. Housel's framing is deliberate. Luck and risk are siblings. They are both the reality that every outcome in life is guided by forces other than individual effort. You cannot have one without acknowledging the other. There's something uncomfortable about this math when you actually run it. In finance, luck is treated like a dirty word. Successful investors do not want to admit it. Unsuccessful investors do not want to dwell on it. So we collectively pretend it doesn't exist. But it does. Watch the next self-made millionaire at 25 profile you scroll past. Now ask yourself, which of these variables didn't they choose? Where they were born? Which family? Which country had which laws? Which decade had which tailwinds? Most of those answers are not in the story they tell about themselves. The Bill Gates lesson is that the answers you don't see are usually doing more work than the answers you do. When we look at successful investors today, we tend to attribute their success entirely to skill. When we look at unsuccessful investors, we tend to attribute their failures entirely to bad behavior. Both reads are wrong. Housel writes that the line between bold and reckless is razor thin and only becomes clear with hindsight. The same goes for patient and lucky. A retail investor who held an index fund for 30 years and retired wealthy is patient. The same investor in a country whose stock market collapsed mid-cycle is unlucky. Same behavior, different luck, different outcome. The implication for our own lives is humbling. When you win in markets, give some credit to luck. When you lose, give yourself some grace, because some of it was luck too. And when you study someone else's success, don't assume their playbook will replicate. The next time you're tempted to envy somebody's success, yes, this lesson can be used against them. Don't. Use it on yourself instead. So how do you actually use Housel's luck and risk lesson in your own financial life? 3 things. 1. Build a strategy that works without luck on your side. The most underrated test of any investing approach is what happens to it during a long, painful, sideways market. If your plan only succeeds in a roaring bull market, you do not have a plan. You have a wager. 2. Be skeptical of self-made success stories. The next time a finance influencer or a famous investor tells you their playbook, ask yourself, which parts were skill? Which parts were the era they were born into? And which parts were luck of timing? You will find the answer is usually a lot more luck than they admit. 3. Apply the same standard to yourself. When you win in markets, do not believe your own genius too quickly. When you lose, do not collapse into self-blame. Some of both is luck, and recognizing that keeps you steady through the next cycle. If this lesson irritated you a little, that's the point. Hit subscribe. The next story will irritate you in exactly the right way. And the next in the series is the other half of the Bill Gates story. Same school, same year, same talent. By Bill Gates's own account, his best friend at Lakeside was the smartest student in the entire class. He was just as driven, just as gifted, and just as obsessed with computers. But his ending was the exact opposite of Bill's. His name was Kent Evans. The story is heartbreaking. We'll see you in the next Yield Tales episode.